Jacob Burton here from StellaCulinary.com, and in a previous video, we went over how to make my version of creamy polenta, which was pretty straightforward. Now, oftentimes you're going to have leftovers, and when you have leftover polenta, obviously like any sort of leftovers, you always want to use it the next day. You don't want to throw it away. And so this is my favorite way to reuse my leftover polenta. I'm going to start by taking a loaf pan. This is basically just your average bread pan that you probably have sitting around in your kitchen. I'm going to line it with some plastic wrap. And then I'm going to spray the plastic wrap with some non-stick spray. It's just going to help release the polenta later on. Now I'm going to pour the polenta while it's still warm into the plastic wrap that's lining the loaf pan. And it's basically a lot like making a terrine. So I'm going to spray the back of my spoon with a non-stick spray. I use the back of the spoon to even out or spread out the surface into an even layer. And then close up and fold in the plastic wrap just like you would when making any other form of molded terrine. Now at this point you want to let this cool overnight, and what's going to happen is it's going to solidify on you, and when it solidifies it's going to make it a lot easier to cut and then fry. Now you can also get fancy with it. This is better even for if you're going to do baked polenta, which is common. And here I'm just layering in some cheese, tomatoes, some fresh oregano from the garden, more cheese on top, more tomatoes on top, and I'm going to press that in to the polenta. Again, all this while it's still warm. Now, because you have layers, this isn't going to be the best for slicing, which you'll see in a second, but you can definitely take this whole thing, unmold it, and bake it, and then serve some tomato sauce over the top, and it's really good. So our one solid block of polenta, this is what it looks like the next day. We're going to unmold it, and you can see it comes out of the mold relatively easy, but because we have the layers in the one polenta, it's a lot harder for it to stick together, so it's not going to be that good for frying. Now, the straight polenta block, we can take that and cut into slices, and it was also trendy for a little while for people to take a polenta block like this, square it off, and then cut it into batons or sticks, fry it up, and then call it polenta fries. There was a couple of people who were kind of famous for this. So that's one method that you can use. But I like to just do a nice slab of polenta and fry it in a pan, and just very, very straightforward. All you're going to do is take an appropriate size pan for the amount of polenta you'll be frying, and here's our standard 50-50 canola mix mixed with clarified butter. Get it nice and hot. Notice how I'm laying the polenta down in the pan away from me, so that way when it splashes back, it's not going to burn me. Now watch this move here. See how I'm tilting the fat into one edge of the pan and then flipping it over? That way I don't have a tidal wave of fat bouncing up out of my pan. That's very, very important. So I'm basically laying it down flat in the pan without the oil, with the oil into one side, and then I lay the pan flat. So now I'm going to brown on both sides, and after it's crispy on both sides, depending upon the thickness of the polenta cake that you cut, you might have to place it on a sizzle pan and then pop in the oven for a little bit just to make sure that it's heated all the way through. Now, once it's nice and warm and crispy on both sides, I like to just dab it real quick on some paper towels just to bring off any excess grease. Now, this served with eggs is phenomenal. You can serve as a breakfast, but you can also, since it's summer, you can build a little caprese on top. All I'm doing here is just layering some fresh mozzarella with some Roma tomatoes, hitting it with a little bit of olive oil and reduced balsamic, maybe a little basil chiffonade right on top, just real classic Italian caprese flavors. And so now you have this nice little summer dish. You have the crispy, warm polenta cake with the fresh tomatoes and mozzarella on top, and you can easily serve this the following day for lunch or brunch and really make good use of your leftover polenta. For more information, check out this episode's show notes at StellaCulinary.com/CT9.